little page today. All right.
That's going to get you through, is it?
Well, I hope so. We'll see. We'll soon find out.
Hello, and welcome to Filling in the Gaps. I'm Justin.
I'm Darren.
Today we are doing one of our bonus episodes. It's a bit worrying. One of the podcasts I listen to, they've made reference to this idea of you do it once and it's an aberration, it's something special. You do it twice and it becomes tradition and habit and people expect it. And I'm a bit worried about that. But here we are. I believe the plan is to put this out yet again for around Thanksgiving. And
hey, it's not my holiday, so it's okay.
Yeah. We're going to talk about a movie called Bad Boy Bubby. This movie is from 1993, written and directed by Ralph DeHeer. It is put together by Fandango and Bubby. Fandango is from Rome and Bubby is in Adelaide, Australia. For some reason, this combined production, much like Threads last year, if there is a trigger warning, this one has it. It's just all of them.
Yeah.
To give you a handful, there's definitely going to be sex. Much of it not in a good way. You will have animal torture. There's going to be abuse of every kind. Welcome to Bad Boy Bubby. If you want a quick and dirty description of it, what I would say is imagine a really sad version of Forrest Gump.
It's not how I would have put it, but okay, I can see it.
You can see it, right?
Yeah.
He's going to have a lot of encounters.
Oh my God.
He's going to have adventures, but he won't get very far. And he's not going to have fun stuff like meeting the president or anything like that.
Playing ping pong and winning a gold medal.
Nothing quite like that. The more I watched it, the more I just went, wow, this is really Forrest Gump, but sad.
Yeah. Okay.
And not that much earlier, though I really doubt that in any way this movie inspired Forrest Gump. I would be shocked to find that out. It's rough. Like, I'm just going to say it's really, really rough. I think if you can find it and if you can watch it and you really want to, like if you could sit through Threads, like I think that's a good benchmark. If you could get through Threads, you can get through this, I think.
Oof.
But even then,
I'd say if you can get through this, you can get through Threads. I would maybe
that's probably a better way to put it.
The other way around.
But the problem is we can't do it that way.
Yeah.
And unless these are listeners who are coming later and they haven't gone back and watched the Threads one.
Yeah.
It's rough. Like, it's really rough. I'm not sure I'd recommend it to anyone.
Well, like I did to you.
Yeah.
I think this is a good movie. I do like this movie. I mean, like is a strong word. I have feelings for this movie.
I do think that it's very original. I mean, the Forrest Gump was a real stretch, but that's the closest I could come up with.
Honestly, now that you've said it, it's like, yeah, I can totally agree with that. It's like a really super depressing Forrest Gump and with some really wild, in-your-face violence. Really, really 1990s kind of almost 1980s shock value.
But true shock value.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
This one doesn't feel like, ooh, we're going to shock them with this. It just seems like they were going full out, and it's going to shock you.
Yeah.
The only movie I think that I could say that I've seen is kind of worse than this one is Necromantic.
I was thinking like Gummo or...
I don't think I've ever actually made it through Gummo.
Right.
I think I may have seen part of it and went, nah, I'm out.
Yeah, because this movie reminded me, it was like an Australian Gummo for me. I recommended it because it's something that's out there and that maybe a lot of people haven't seen. It is tough to get through, especially the first 30, 40 minutes of the movie. If you can get through the first half an hour of the film, I think you're good to go for the rest of it.
I mean, there'll still be bad stuff, but nothing is as bad as the first 30 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. And not just for what you see visually, but just the pace of the movie and how slow it is and how dreadful, like in the proper sense of the word, it is. Not really selling this, am I?
Not really. Here's the thing. If you are not put off by anything we've said so far, then yeah, probably give it a try. This is not so much a typical episode. That's why we're not putting it. It's not a numbered one. This is a bonus because this is more filling in the gaps in, as you put it to me, people's video library or something. That this is one that most people will not have seen and probably not have even heard of, much like Threads.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of putting that out there. And maybe we'll find some interesting things. I know that we had a listener comment on threads that the one character I didn't understand how they were connected said, "Oh yeah, that's actually this character's brother," like or sister. I think I was like, "Oh, that's quite good," because I'm not going to go back to threads to watch it again.
It's going to be your yearly Thanksgiving movie now, isn't it?
No.
Oh, no, sorry. Bad Boy Bubby's going to be your new Thanksgiving movie.
No, because next year you're going to find some other movie of this caliber for us to watch again. But that's pretty much it. I don't want to preface it anymore. I just kind of want to jump into it. So if you've not seen Bad Boy Bubby and you don't want spoilers, well, then go and come back. But for the rest of you, whether you just don't think you want to watch it.
Yeah, if you don't think you can stomach it, but you still want to hear what it's about and how shocked it can make us, then yeah, stick around.
And there it is. Here's your spoiler warning.
So he didn't do too bad, you know. The main actor went on to play, you know, that guy from Lord of the Rings and the guy from The Matrix.
Listeners cannot see the dirty look I'm giving him. This is not Hugo Weaving.
That's not Hugo Weaving.
But that was your joke, right? That's what you're trying to say.
Joke,
okay,
yeah.
all right.
The guy, I can't remember his name, Nicholas Hope, is that his name?
I actually didn't really IMDb this one. I didn't Rotten Tomatoes this one. I just...
Oh, you didn't?
I didn't.
Because you usually do that. I did. And maybe I had like a sixth sense then, because Rotten Tomatoes, or Tomatoes, puts it at 100.
How many reviews are there? Like 2?
No, there's
2 from Adelaide.
I think there's, yeah. I think there's about between, I don't know, I think it was about 20. For the critics, it was 100. For the audience, it was 88. And for IMDb, it was a 7.4.
I'm shocked.
More shocked than you were what the movie.
Actually, yeah. Given what the content is, given that first 30 minutes, I figured a lot of people wouldn't even bother to make it through.
Yeah. No, it went on to do really well. It won several awards. It cleaned up at the Venice Film Festival. It did not do well at the box office. It barely...
No, this is not a box office
It barely
movie.
clawed back what it made.
But I even thought, artistically, people wouldn't like this.
No, they did. They did enjoy it, and they... Well, that's a weird word to say.
They respected it.
They respected it,
yeah.
And so it won a lot of awards, and it got a lot of respect. I think the thing that you were talking about before with like the Adelaide Fandango, whatever it was, connection, was originally the director, he got like 400 grand for the movie. And he spent 10 years working on this movie. Pretty much as soon as he came out of university, he had this idea for Bad Boy Bubby, and it changed drastically. We'll talk more about that later on. But what happened was this guy he was going to shoot it on like a really grainy camera, blah, 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 really low budget. And this guy from Italy said, look, I'll match your 400K and let's get a proper sound and good camera and stuff. It was 800,000 budget. And I think it made back about 900. At least that's what I got.
$900.
Yeah, 900 full dollars. They made 900,000. And then, that was it. But that's where the link comes from Italy.
Okay. That's very interesting. Let's get into the movie. We're going to open with a man, we'll find out as Bubby, getting a shave. He gets smacked for moving. He's getting hosed down in a tub by someone who immediately I assumed was his mother, but wasn't sure.
Yeah.
They live in a concrete hovel.
Yeah, absolute squalor, yeah.
He's given sugar on broken up bread with, I guess, milk on it. That's what they're eating.
Yeah, fallout shelter cereal.
And that's kind of what they're going for, because when she exits, she's always wearing a mask and convincing Bubby that he needs to stay because it's poisonous out there.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to say right from the start. And I knew nothing about this movie. You told me, don't look up anything about this movie. Just go into it fresh. Even then, I assumed she was lying.
Yeah.
Maybe I've just seen too many of these kind of deception movies. But I'm like, no, I don't think it's bad out there. I just don't. There are cockroaches. Bubby is torturing a cat in a cage with a stick. He's eventually going to kill the cat with... Does he kill it with saran wrap, or is he just...
Yeah.
That seems to be his thing.
I mean, I think it's an accident. He doesn't intentionally kill the cat.
No, he also doesn't understand life and death.
Yeah. Yeah, he
doesn't understand pretty much anything. The mother has not explained anything ever. Just the rules and the habits. So, like, when she goes out, don't move.
Yeah, he literally does not move.
He moves to eat, and I thought that was the thing.
Right.
Don't eat these crackers. If you don't eat these crackers, I'll come back with better snacks for you, that kind of thing. But he eats those pretty much right away and just sits there and basically goes to the toilet in his pants on the seat which is disgusting. And she gets mad about it, but he didn't move.
Yeah.
So it's like, he's doomed either way, basically. And doomed by weird handmade Jesus on the wall.
Yes.
Yeah. Anything you do, Jesus will be watching.
Yeah. If the gas doesn't get you, Jesus is going to get you.
He says, after that happened, Bubby naughty. And that's when she knows what happened and slapped him for it. And then they have sex, which is...
disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't expect that. I did not see that coming.
I kind of did. This whole setup just seemed to be set up for that. After the torture of the cat, I kind of felt anything is on the table.
Yeah, well, yeah. Anything is on the table, yeah.
There's a point later, Bubby's pretending to be her in a dress. He's still torturing the cat at this point. He asks something about the cat and how it came from outside, but the cat doesn't have a gas mask. And she says something weird about, like, oh, he holds its breath. And Bubby doesn't understand what is holds its breath. So she...
yeah, suffocates him.
Yeah, so that he knows what that is. He knows what that means. But a really long time. This is also a hard scene to watch. Because you're not sure she's actually going to let go.
Right.
At least I wasn't.
Be a short movie then, though.
He's going to start practicing with plastic wrap, and this is where he kills the cat with it. But again, I think he may maliciously understand what torturing the cat is. And I think that a lot of this is trickled down. He gets tortured from his mother. The only thing he can control are these cockroaches that he can pull apart and the cat that he can torture.
Yeah, a lot of this film, I think, is about society and how people are born in a certain way, but also people learn their habits in a certain way. So Bad Boy Bubby is not really bad, but he's learned all these terrible things because he has terrible parents. So his upbringing has made him what he is, but he does have potential to be Good Boy Bubby in the end.
And that's the saving grace, I think, of this movie. I think if it had ended 20 minutes earlier, it would have been an absolute disaster. But I think that there's something weirdly hopeful in the end.
Can I just say something before we get to that then? No?
Like just before or right now?
Right now, well, just right now, because otherwise I'll forget about it maybe, just when we're talking about the end. Not to say anything about the end, but the further ending was he actually did want to end the movie on like a real down note. At the time, Australia was going to reintroduce the death penalty, and so he was going to make it Bubby gets executed in the end. And then it turned out that it was all just a rumour and it wasn't actually true, so he took it out. And we get this nice ending instead.
Okay. In a way, that would have worked very well too, though.
Yeah.
When you're talking about who deserves it, and especially in this situation where I would definitely label Bubby as having mental issues, that he is probably a much lower level mentally than being an adult. He still, in many ways, has the mind of a child.
Right.
And should that person deserve that or not? And that would have been pretty hard-hitting, given that. But he also does some very terrible things along the way. Yeah. And I think that towards the end, where you start to see, oh, well, he's not actually bad as the stuff that has been done to him. But we need to get through more of that bad stuff before we get to the good stuff.
Yeah.
We're going to have a man come knocking at the door. He's dressed like a priest, but he certainly doesn't act like a priest. So this is Bubby's father, who's also a priest. So he gets called father doubly, I suppose, right?
Right.
But he's so not.
No, he's far from it. At least that's not how I would imagine a priest to behave.
Even from the beginning. And so maybe there's something about the way that they've put it together that I could see all of these things coming almost immediately. Maybe it's not bad. Because I don't think that it's meant to be the type of thing that it's a twist. Like, oh, Bubby's mom is going to have sex with him. Or that this guy is also Bubby's father. And that this guy isn't really a priest. And that this guy is not a good guy. You get that almost immediately. And I don't think it's bad. Because that's not the thing the movie hinges on. It's not a big twist that this is going to happen.
Yeah, it's not like a big twist like, oh, outside actually is not, we're not in a post-apocalypse. Oh, did you not see that coming? Yeah, it's like you get outside fairly quickly. I think it's only about 30 minutes for the first part, but it feels like an hour.
It's very long, slow-paced, and I think also just having to sit through long scenes of stuff you don't want to see.
Yeah.
With the priest coming in, this messes with the whole dynamic of everything. I guess she never told this guy he had a son.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think he probably just left her anyway. Or maybe he left her when she was pregnant or something. I don't know.
He's going to offer to marry her, saying something like, oh, I'm only preaching part-time. Which I don't think it works that way. And Harold, his name, like I said in my notes, he seems like a scam artist. And that was almost immediately from when he walked in the door.
Yeah.
He says he wants some alone time with Florence. He's like, oh, go outside, will you? Not knowing that Bubby has been told the whole time like he's not allowed to go outside or it's death. Bubby keeps mimicking what Harold says. He's repeating what Harold says. He's repeating his actions, which at first could seem, and to me seemed like he was mocking him, that he didn't like the new change in dynamic. He was used to having his mother to himself. Having this third person in changes everything. Mm-hmm. But as we come to see, Bubby really only says, for the most part, right until towards the end, he pretty much just says things that have been told to him.
Exactly. He's a mirror for society, more or less, for the better part of the film.
And because of that, it's like, oh, maybe he really isn't. And this is part of why he was maybe wearing his mother's clothes before, because he was just trying to impersonate the only other person he knew.
Yeah.
And very early on, he's going to try to impersonate Harold by trying on the suit, which clearly doesn't fit him because Bubby's way taller.
Yeah. But I like how these themes and motifs kind of keep coming back in the movie. You know, later on, he gets the priest outfit on, and that he kind of essentially becomes his father in a weird way as he like becomes the main focus of like this rock band that's on a pub circuit kind of deal, you know? I like how these kind of themes keep on coming back, and it's not just like everything. It's not everything's there for a reason in the beginning. Yeah, I like that.
And it will progress as he sees more of the world.
Yeah.
But he's still stuck in this tiny world here. So he's seeing them have sex. He gets told off for watching. And is at this point where they kick him out.
Yeah.
And he thinks he's going to die because he's outside. Bubby is going to... One of the times they go out, because they start going out drinking and coming back.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, it's not obvious that outside would be okay by the fact that Harold never has a mask, but okay.
They're sharing the mask.
Yeah, he holds his breath for that long. Bubby, when they come back, they find that Bubby has cut his hair and he kind of glues some of it to his face, so he has the stubble or beard of Harold. And they think it's very funny because they've been drinking. Bubby starts sort of flirting with his mother, and she's fine with it until Harold notices, and then she goes, "Oh, Bubby, how could you..."
That's kind of Bubby's trigger, isn't it?
This is where Harold kicks him out. And Bubby's putting on a mask, but I think he kind of realizes something's not quite right. Mm-hmm. He's sleeping on the ground outside the front door. After the others leave, they kind of walk over him. He goes in and he absolutely destroys the place. Mm-hmm. Florence and Harold return again, drunk. They hit and verbally abuse Bubby. They fight each other. And then they start laughing about it, and then they sleep. Bubby puts the cling film on Harold and then on his mother, and he doesn't really understand that they're dead. He's still talking to them. He's still interacting with them in multiple ways that indicates he still thinks they're alive. And it's only after what appears to be days of him sitting there alone does he realize no food is coming. They aren't moving anymore. Something must be wrong. He dresses up in the priest outfit, throws the cat in a suitcase, and heads out. He's going to encounter some bogans who insult him from a bright red car. I think they throw beer bottles at him. Yeah. And so
he learns his first words.
Yes, which he'll be using again later.
I just like how when he gets outside, though, it's so loud and noisy and stuff that the movie kind of changes the audio. And I think this actually comes back to another point about the film. I don't know how many cinematographers they had, but for each scene, they had a different one. He wanted the movie to be shot, and they weren't allowed to reference the other parts. It was all shot in sequence as well. So it was shot from beginning to end directly, and each cinematographer was not allowed to use any of the references from the earlier scenes.
That's interesting.
So all the indoor scenes, that was just one guy. Outside in the streets, that's another guy. Concerts, that's another guy. Blah, blah, blah. 21, I think, different cinematographers.
That's a really interesting way to do it. You definitely get different styles for the different areas, but it doesn't feel out of place in this movie for some reason.
Yeah, it works well. And you'd think that it would be somewhat random, like almost like, this is a really stupid extreme example, but like something like the Animatrix, you know, where it's like a bunch of different people doing a really diverse bunch of different things. I guess they must have had some idea it's a movie about this, so don't shoot it with claymation, but...
Yeah, you have real actors. I think that's what makes this flow a little bit more smoothly than, say, Mind Game, which we've discussed before, where you had a couple different directors with very different art styles doing things very, very differently. This one, at least, you have the same actors going in different scenes, and I'm assuming roughly the same geographical area.
Yeah, so he gets outside and...
He's going to go through a junkyard. He's going to encounter a Salvation Army choir. He's looking really closely at them. He's even feeling up some of the women very, very inappropriately, but they don't... They're the nicest people ever to not just stop or to call the police on him or anything. They just kind of guide his hands away, like, no, that's not okay.
Yeah.
And they even, because he starts singing with them, they end up taking him to a pizza restaurant. He gets pizza for the first time and loves it. He ends up going home with the young, beautiful Salvation Army woman.
Yes.
Which seemed very out of place. But okay. And she sort of takes care of him. They have sex. She sings for him. And then...
While they're having sex.
And it's kind of... Out you go. So he's on the street. He tries to... I don't know. He tries to lick a tree. He runs to cut it down. He ends up seeing a child for what I think is the first time.
Oh, the little Superman kid.
And he goes to the furniture store to play with the kid.
Little. Is that what he says?
And he's playing with the kid, and the kid is having fun. And honestly, it's not a terrible thing, but obviously he gets kicked out. We don't want this weird, strange man playing with our little kid.
Yeah.
But he doesn't take it well. With every time he gets upset, then he uses one of the lines that has been used against him.
Yeah.
He's going to go to a print shop, and he's fascinated by what's going on in there. But boy, they don't like him at all and kick him out. And he ends up then at a bakery. He sees a woman getting eclairs, so he gets eclairs. And this woman takes pity on him and pays for them, I'm assuming. And then she decides to drive him somewhere.
He just reaches over and feels her boob.
But even that, I think she understands that he's mentally challenged in some way. She's okay with that.
Yeah.
Until he insults a police officer in the street. The police officer comes over, takes him out of the car, kicks him. And this is one of the few times where I say, well, this movie, even though it's so disjointed and weird and strange, this feels wrong that she would just leave him. But that's what happens.
Again, though, I think that is what they're doing is, again, shining a light on society, whereas, there's up to a point that we will be on board with things, but as soon as the law gets involved or as soon as someone of authority comes in, because I think a big theme of this movie is authority, be it God or the police or parents. And so as soon as the cops are getting involved, she's like, right, I'm out of here, because that's not a level that I'm willing to deal with. And she leaves him. She abandons him, essentially, like everyone else has kind of abandoned him.
Right. They keep picking him up, hanging out with him for a day, and then abandoning him.
Yeah.
Luckily for Bubby, the guy who's driving the truck behind him says, I saw what that cop did. That was terrible. Come with us. Bubby gets in the back, and I believe this is where he meets the rock group, right?
Yeah.
The band. And they just kind of think he's funny, and they're fine to let him hang out. But after his chance to be the quote-unquote apprentice roadie.
Apprentice roadie, yeah.
Where he helps move stuff in. And I think they might have given him pizza or something, but they're all desperate for money. They're really poor. We don't know how we're going to survive. They had one guy come to the show, sees there's nobody else, and turns right back around again. And the problem is, in the newspaper, there's a reward for the cling wrap killer, which we know is Bubby.
Yeah.
So they're debating what to do. I think they send him out for something. He says, oh, those are my parents. That's Bubby's mom. That's Bubby's dad. But however he puts it, that they stop breathing, like the cat, and he pulls the cat out. And they're like, whoa, no, get out of here. That cat is too much. But he steals money using the same action and words as the cop from before. So there's another time where everything that's said to him, done to him, he'll do as well. He's going to follow a beautiful violin sound. He gets blown a kiss. As the band is debating what to do, should we turn him in? Should we not? What should we do with him? He basically gives them cash.
Yeah, because he robs that store.
Yeah. And they're oh, okay, in that case. In a way, Bubby kind of paid for his freedom with that. where here's a bit of cash. It's enough to get them through. All right, we'll let you go. They're even writing a theme song for him in the back of the truck.
Do you think they're keeping him around because they might need him to steal again? Is that not maybe why they've kept him on?
That could be, though I think the money that the newspaper was offering was more than what he gave.
All right, okay.
I could be wrong. Maybe it wasn't much of a reward.
I mean, if they can keep on getting like little bits out of him, it would be more
eventually.
worth
That's very long-term thinking for a group that doesn't seem like it's very long-term thinking, but yes, probably. I think you could put that out as a valid theory as to why they keep him around. I think that there's just something about him that they appreciate. Mm-hmm. Something about him that seems, in a way, pure and innocent, and I think they very much understand that he doesn't understand the world around him the way that we do. You would think that the Klinger cat would be enough to go, no, you're out, you're done. I thought they were done with him for good. Mm-hmm. But the money was enough, I think, for them to go, to remind them maybe there is something good in him.
Right.
At least that's the way I like to think of it.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. It could have been just for very selfish motivation.
And then in the end, I think it does turn into like, oh, well, actually, he's a big part of our group now.
Well, yeah, it turns into that, but we're a long way from that yet, I think. He's going to get dropped off with Dan, lives in a loft. There's some sort of, it's like a loft art gallery. It's a very weird place this guy lives.
Yeah.
He gives Bubby some new clothes, and in a restaurant, he sees a woman. He basically uses Harold's flirting techniques to talk to the woman, which is not the way. I think Florence is the only woman in the world this would work on. He's going to get taken to jail.
Yeah.
And weirdly, I'm kind of curious how you feel about this. He's tortured by bagpipes.
I like this scene. It was pretty funny because I've been also tortured by bagpipes.
I quite like bagpipes, but they have to be played well, and whatever is going on here is not that. I can kind of understand his torture here, but it just seems so weird that this was happening. You could say, oh, this is maybe the police group of bagpipers, and maybe they're practicing, but it just seems so out of place here.
Yeah. It's one thing to hear bagpipes, it's another thing to live next door to someone practicing the bagpipes.
That I could understand. In jail,
here we go.
He basically gets raped.
Yes.
And I'm not sure that he really understands what's going on, but I kind of feel like because that happens, he gets let out. Maybe I'm wrong. It just feels like that's part of why.
I think so. I think it's like he shouldn't really be in jail for what he did for that. I mean, I guess he's homeless as well, essentially, so they would put him in jail. But I think after that happens, they're just like, okay, this is not my problem anymore. Get out.
Here's $10.
Yeah, go and get some pizza.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what he does. Yeah, that's rough. That's a rough scene.
He follows the church organ to the music. He's always following music.
Yeah.
Which I think is great that that's hinted throughout the whole thing. Mm-hmm. He's drawn to music. And that really plays into towards the end as well. Mm-hmm. The organist even shows him a bit about the organ, and then he takes him to a chemical plant where he kind of preaches at him. He says something about, like, there's no God, really. You have to take care of yourself. Really interesting for somebody who plays organ in a church.
I like this character because I think his one quote that really stuck with me ever since I watched the movie for the first time is he says, it's a person's job to think God out of existence. I think that's exactly what he says. And coming from a church organ player, that's a really interesting quote. Yeah, this scene is almost like a pivot for the movie where things change from this point forward for Bubby. Maybe it's hinting at Bubby becomes a bit more critical thinking himself and starts to realise that there's a lot more to the world. Because he's a child growing up, essentially, isn't he? So it's just like the veil has kind of been pulled back for him a little bit more.
On the street, Bubby is going to inappropriately touch a woman, and the whole gang of women with her just beat him up.
Yes.
Bubby is going to return home, see the painted lines where the bodies had been his mother and father, and he cries about having lost his mother. I think this is the first time he really starts to understand what happened and possibly even what he did.
Right.
He puts on the priest outfit. He's going to head out. He returns to the pizza place. The waitress, there's something about Bubby. Everybody always pities him. Like, do you have money? Oh, no. Because didn't he give the $10 away to somebody?
I thought he put the $10 on the table. I'm pretty sure he did put money down on the
Oh, maybe
table.
she said, no, that's okay.
Yeah,
this
I
one's
think,
on me.
yeah.
Because all he just keeps saying is, pizza. Well, what kind of pizza? Just pizza. Like, he doesn't even know how to say what kind of pizza he wants. He sleeps in the alley. He finds the little kitten. The next morning, he's like, stay here. I'll get pizza. But it's like 8 a.m. or something. The pizza place is not open yet. There's a bum trying to get money. Bubby offers him the $10. Yeah, that's right. He does still have the $10 because he tries to give to this guy. And the guy says, oh, well, let's go in the bar. We can drink together. Like, I'm not even just going to, this is too much. I'm not going to take all of it. Let's share a drink. And the band he knows happens to be playing.
Mm-hmm.
Bubby, drawn to the music, gets up. They recognize him. They think it's a laugh to let him take over the microphone.
Yeah.
And he does. And he starts spewing out all the terrible things that we've heard said to him and that many times he said as well. And this is the ultimate point where he starts to become the mirror on society.
Yeah.
And the crowd likes it. Like, at first they don't, but then they come around.
Yeah. Yeah. He's channeling his inner Nick Cave. Yeah, I like how he becomes this kind of character as well. He's just a vent for all the bad things in the world.
He now declares his name is Pop, because that is what Harold wanted him to call him.
Yeah.
Call me Pop, Bubby. So he's taking over the clothes, he's taking over the attitude, he's trying to become a different person, because Bubby was bad, and Bubby did terrible things.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to take pizza to the kitten, but the kids in the alley have already killed it, and I think that this is, again, a time where he's learned. He understands what death is now.
Yeah. And it's also a way to show that human beings are actually evil as well. You know, like, it doesn't matter what state of mind you are. These are just three punks just out to...
They're not even punks. They look like...
I just mean like just little...
I know, but I want you to... Because when I think 90s punk, I don't think these guys...
You're thinking mohawks and... Yeah. I just mean...
Yeah. These are... looks like well-to-do kids.
Yeah, exactly. And they torture and they've killed this. Whereas when Bubby did it, he didn't really know what he was doing, and he didn't realise that the cling film would like suffocate the animal. Even when he left the house, he still took it with him. You know, that animal was still special to him. I think the only reason he was torturing the cat in the first place is because that's what he'd seen his mum do in the first place anyway. So he thought that was how you treat animals. But as soon as he sees that little kitten come in, which he knows is going to die, as soon as you see it, he's like, oh no.
But I thought it was going to be something that Bubby did.
Okay. I didn't, because I know the way that he accepted the cat. The cat almost represents like a second chance at life. And these little twerps, just like kill it. And so he takes it with him.
He's going to be in the park. Some people in wheelchairs come by. Bubby's actually going to start translating for people who can't speak for themselves.
This part is interesting because what was your take on this, man? Because
I just thought this was glorious. This came out of nowhere, and at first, I wasn't sure what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Because I thought Bubby was just being nonsensical, but he wasn't. The one woman talks to him, and so he starts talking to the nurse, and she said, oh, what did she say? So, oh, she thinks Kitten is dead. Yeah, Bubby Kitten is dead. Well, not even Bubby, she doesn't know him. She doesn't know him. She's like, yeah, I think he is dead. And she goes, oh, yeah, well, I think playing along. Oh, well, what else does she say? She says your name is Angel. And I was like, oh, wait, you mean you actually understand what she can say? And that was just, it's kind of like a miracle moment of like, oh, as I said, these people who can't speak for themselves, Bubby can actually explain for them and tell what they want and tell them what they need. And that would be just such a useful tool to have, an asset to have in this kind of situation. Yeah. And that he starts helping out. Like, they take him in and they say, oh, what do you guys think about Bubby staying? And everybody's happy because, of course, he can understand them. And he's also being very nice to them. He's not being, at that point, he's being Pop still. But Pop as he envisioned him, being a good guy, not Bubby because he was bad.
I find this part really interesting because I think it deals with that situation really well. You know, it's like the whole movie, I mean, it's kind of labeled as a black comedy, and I can see that in some parts, but it takes this part really seriously and really well, and it does something really interesting with it because back in the 90s, I don't know if we want to cut this bit out, but like, I think nowadays doing something like this, I don't even know if you could get away with it. Do you know what I mean? Like, in the 90s, it was a totally different attitude towards any kind of disability. And so to do this movie back then, I don't want to use the word brave, because it's not really brave, but I mean, it might be the word, but doing it today, it would be easier to do today, I think, because the audience is a lot more clued into that kind of stuff. Am I making any sense?
I don't know if it'd be easier to do. This section might be easier to do.
Right.
I think this section would be more, if it was done now, would be more done as Oscar bait and heartfelt.
Okay,
and
yeah.
You would spend 10 minutes of him being in a bad situation and then 2 hours of him becoming a better person and people understanding him.
Right.
I think it'd be much more that kind of movie. I just don't see you doing the first 75% of this movie the way that it was done.
Yeah.
But I agree. I do think that, at least as far as this part, it was taken very, very seriously. And I think that it's handled very seriously. And this is also where I really feel Bubby starts speaking as himself for the first time, maybe ever. Because he's not just repeating what's been said before. He now is talking to people.
Yeah, because this part, I think probably I cried the first time I watched this part, because I think it's the part where he takes the girl out of the chair. Is it this scene?
It's coming up. Like, you've got the part where they say, oh, let's have Bubby stay. Everybody's yay. And he's like, well, essentially says, like, I kind of want to, but I have to go sing in my band tonight. And I need to get pizza.
That's right.
So Angel ends up taking him. Like, yeah, okay, we can make that work.
Yeah,
you know? Like, what you do here is so valuable. We can make that work.
I'll take you to your gig.
I'll take you to your gig, get the pizza, and then the band tries to get two girls to spend the night with. But he basically insults their breasts. They're beautiful women. He's like, nah, those are tiny. I'm out.
Yeah.
They're not like angels.
Yeah, they're not angels.
Because Angel at this point has, in a very weird scene, but hey, it's Bubby. It's Bad Boy Bubby, whatever. She wants to know his name, and he keeps saying it's Pop, and she knows it's not. And she's like, all right, you want to see my breasts? I'll show them to you, but you have to tell me your name. Mm-hmm. And then she, much like his mother had said, like, oh, aren't they too big? Like, what kind of world was this in Adelaide in the 90s where that was an issue? But, yeah, and I think he says the same thing that his father had said, like, oh, no, they're the eighth wonder of the world or something.
Right, yeah.
But that didn't feel special. But this point, I think, where, yes, they're going to bury the kitten. Rachel is the woman in the wheelchair. Mm-hmm. And Bubby has to say, I don't feel the same way about you.
Yeah.
I feel that way about Angel. This kind of unexpected love triangle that's going on. And how he's just crying. He's very sad about it.
Yeah, because I think the way that he says it is he says, she doesn't have a Bubby. Yeah. Yeah, it's so sad, man.
She's sad because she loves Bubby, but Bubby loves Angel.
Yeah.
And this is where Angel takes Bubby to meet her parents. They're awful parents.
And that's it. It's like, so you've got Bubby, who's been raised in that way by two terrible parents, and then you've got Angel, who's been raised by two terrible parents. It's like, what a better match.
They call her fat. They call her a slut. Bubby defends her. He gets kicked out. He finds cling film in an alley, which leads us to think, well, he's going to go back in.
Yeah.
But as far as we know, he doesn't, right?
I think he does.
You think he does and we just don't see it?
Yeah.
It is possible. I didn't think so. I thought that was a red herring or a bait and switch. Right. But I think either works. Mm-hmm. Angel talks a bit about factories poison the air. A man is singing, talking politics, and this, I'm not sure what I put in my notes. This is something about cling wrapping others?
Are you thinking there's a guy, the cling wrapping becomes one of the emblems of the band. They've all got cling wrapped heads.
That's what it is. They're also all buying priest collars and things to wear.
Collars and cling film.
They've become a sort of pop group, or it's just popular. It's popular with this group. I would say it's very underground still, but the people who love it absolutely love it. They're diehard fans, right? Yeah.
And that's a very 90s thing as well, like that. When your band has like a thing, you know, like the Chili Peppers would come out with their socks on, you know, like, yeah, they come out now with their cling filmed heads.
And you just see they're wildly popular. They're selling out shows at these small clubs.
They look at Bubby. There's a guy in the audience who's just like enthralled by being that close to Bubby when he's like having sex with this blow-up doll right in front of him. And they're just worshipping Bubby now. He's like insanely popular. And yeah, it's like, it's such a weird, again, that whole mirror reflection of everything that he's done in the movie so far has been like weird, and people have beat him up and like looked down on him. But as soon as he gets in a band and does exactly the same things, everybody thinks he's amazing. You know, it's like such a double standard.
It is. And I think that a lot of 80s punk really influences what happens in the movie. And like you're saying, if it came out in 93, then it was probably started in the 80s if it took 15 years to make. Yeah, this kind of weird, just saying the things you've heard and shouting the problems with the world was definitely a part of that culture. And I could definitely see that it could be popular with people who like that. Mm-hmm. So I totally get that. We get to Bubby and Angel as they make love. Then we see a sort of happily ever after. Kids running around. They're sitting in the garden.
But we do also get to see what are the... I mean, this weirded me out more than anything else. Like, maybe not more than Bubby having sex with his own mother, but there's a part right then when she gives birth to the twins, and there's a bunch of people just standing outside looking through a window. She's completely naked and is just giving birth. It's like, is that a thing in Australia? I don't think so.
I don't think that that's ever been. I think that might be one of those... weird Bad Boy Bubby movie thing. Yeah.
It's not even relevant. It's the band, isn't it? It's like the band are fans. Anyway, so the birth, that was weird. Well, here's one thing, though, about the scene with the... this is just a bit of trivia that I got off of... It was on that, I think, IMDb page. And it was, Nicholas Hope is a devout Catholic. And so he said that was the hardest scene was for him to stand up at the dinner table and all the words that he calls God. So he's like, that was the hardest part of the movie for me. Yeah, well, really? Okay. I didn't know that at all about the guy, but yeah, that's weird.
To say something about him that's the part that's the hardest with all the other things he had to do.
Yeah, exactly. But to be more serious about this guy, Nicholas Hope, of course, is not the guy. It's not, what's his name? Agent Smith. But he was in Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Oh, okay.
He was a professor that they meet. He's in 2 of the episodes in that. And then one weird thing that I found on IMDb is his new movie, which comes out this year, is called The Home Team, and it's about a suicide space cult, and he plays a guy called Darren. Now that we're at the end, I just love that ending, because it's like, look at these 2 people who've been traumatized terribly by their parents, and they've grown up and found each other, and they've given birth to twins, and they're living in a nice house, they've got a nice little garden, and they look to be a couple of the best parents ever. So it's like, you're not a product of your environment kind of thing.
And that's the weirdly hopeful thing that came out of the movie that I was not expecting at all.
Yeah.
And that whole, I don't know, I guess let's say the 5th act, from the time he gets up on stage and sings and they like it, to him meeting the people he can help, to finding a woman he can fall in love with who also loves him eventually. Like, I don't think for her it's at first, but
no.
I think definitely they start to get that. And then once he defends her in front of her parents, then that kind of cements that she really likes him. And yeah, I really was shocked by that. If you just told me that the whole movie was that 5th act, I would say, yeah, that sounds a bit sappy, but I could probably get behind it. The first 4. It's a wild movie. Overall, I started sending you messages when I was about halfway through the movie saying, I don't think this is a great episode. Mostly because it wasn't really, we have very early on, we stuck with kind of
puzzles. It's
either a mind-bending, puzzling movie or it's a game involving puzzles in some way. And this was neither. I said, well, this doesn't really fit with what we want to do. I said, if you want to do it as a bonus, we can, but why in the world are we doing what is going to probably be a bonus Thanksgiving episode, which is also depressing? But I hadn't gotten to any of the good parts of it yet, the kind of hopeful parts of it yet. I was still his 3rd time he'd been abandoned.
Right. Yeah, just more doom and gloom. Yeah.
But this one brings out, whereas Threads didn't. Threads right to
Threads just leaves you stranded.
Right to the final credits. It's like, we are going to hit you hard.
Yeah.
This one does something a little bit different, and I think that's where, though Threads, I respect it for what it tried to do, for how realistic it tried to be for that situation, especially given that it was meant to be more informational. This one being story-based and completely fictional.
Right.
I like that they did something. I do think the other ending could have worked, but I think that This one is kind of nice. And I still don't think it's enough for me to recommend it to people because of how much awful stuff there is throughout and how difficult it is to get through. But having made it through the end, I would say I now understand why you recommended it to me.
Gaps filled or more gaps created.